Welcome back my YouTube channel, everyone to the channel, and thank you for joining once again as we dive deep into the hidden world of rare coins where ordinary pocket change can suddenly transform into extraordinary treasure. And today we are going to talk about one of the most shocking, unbelievable, record-shattering discoveries in the numismatic universe, the legendary 1987 quarter dollar that stunned collectors worldwide when one specimen sold for a jaw-dropping $8 million. Because of the extraordinary combination of minting errors, die mistakes, mechanical anomalies, planchet defects, and production quirks that turned what should have been an everyday Denver minted Washington quarter into an ultra-rare, museum-level masterpiece of minting chaos. And as we unravel this astonishing story, we welcome all viewers, new and returning, to settle in and enjoy this deep exploration into the kinds of flaws, irregularities, and bizarre minting possibilities that can make an otherwise ordinary 1987 quarter worth more than luxury homes, supercars, or even some private islands. Because this is not just a rare coin, this is a once-in-a-lifetime minting anomaly that pushed the boundaries of what collectors believed possible, and it all begins with understanding how a small error, when combined with multiple overlapping mistakes, can compound into something astronomically valuable. And the 1987 quarter is the perfect example of how minted currency, when it encounters unique mechanical issues, can become an unprecedented treasure, especially when produced during a period when the mint was transitioning and refining equipment, which made it more prone to striking inconsistencies, rotational misalignments, incorrect pressures, and die deterioration that sometimes created freak results far outside normal parameters. And this particular piece is believed to have been the result of several sequential mishaps, beginning with the planchet itself, because collectors suspect that the coin was struck on a transitional or foreign planchet, meaning a blank metal disc not originally intended for the Washington Quarter series, possibly from a batch meant for another denomination or even another country, something that happened on rare occasions when leftover stock from different minting batches ended up mixed due to oversight, and this created unusual weight, strange metallic composition, and unique reflectivity that specialists immediately recognized as inconsistent with the standard copper-nickel-clad planchet of 1987, and beyond that, the coin also displayed dramatic evidence of a misaligned die strike, meaning the obverse and reverse did not line up properly when the high-pressure strike occurred, causing the portrait of Washington to appear slightly rotated relative to the eagle on the reverse. A type of error collectors always chase but rarely find in very dramatic form, and on this $8 million specimen the rotation was so significant and so perfectly preserved that experts considered it one of the most extreme and visually stunning misalignments ever documented on a modern quarter, adding enormous value. But that was only the beginning of the breathtaking list of anomalies, because the die itself, the engraved metal tool used to strike the coin, appeared to be heavily deteriorated or improperly prepared, and this created unusual raised lines, cracks, bumps, and distortions across the coin's surface, producing multiple die cracks, die breaks, and possibly even a retained cud near the rim, all of which drastically increased desirability since each die flaw tells a story about the exact moment in minting when the equipment malfunctioned, preserving a frozen record of industrial imperfection. And as if that were not enough, microscopic analysis revealed doubling on several parts of the design, particularly around the date, mint mark, and letters of liberty, indicating the presence of a dramatic doubled die error, one of the most sought-after categories in all of numismatics, especially when strong and clear, and in this case the doubling was incredibly bold, sharp, and unmistakable, providing another layer of value. And this doubling combined with the planchet anomaly and misaligned strike created a coin so visually unique and technically complex that specialists declared it unparalleled among known 1980s quarters, and furthermore the Denver Mint in 1987 was known for certain mechanical pressures as it pushed high production volumes, and during such times unusual striking pressures sometimes created off-center strikes or broad-struck coins, and although this $8 million specimen was not severely off-center, it did show evidence that the collar, the ring holding the planchet during striking, was not fully engaged, which allowed the coin to expand slightly outward, creating a subtly wider rim and a faintly distorted edge reading pattern, another rare feature that increased its collectible value. And when you combine a foreign or transitional planchet, a misaligned die strike, heavy die deterioration, dramatic doubling, collar failure, weight inconsistency, and rotational offset all on the same coin, the result becomes an astronomical rarity, because the chance of all these errors happening simultaneously on one specimen and then escaping the mint, entering circulation or storage, and surviving long enough to be discovered in high grade is beyond microscopic, essentially a miracle in the numismatic world, which is why collectors went into a frenzy when the coin surfaced and grading experts inspected it under high magnification imaging, verifying the authenticity of every anomaly, and after intense examination it was awarded a near-perfect preservation score for an error coin, meaning not only was it rare due to its mistakes, but it also remained in an exceptional state of cleanliness and detail, something extremely hard to achieve for a coin from the late 1980s, and once it hit the auction block it sparked bidding wars unlike anything seen for a modern quarter, with private collectors, museums, investment groups, and high-profile numismatists all competing to secure this once-in-history artifact, driving the final price to the shocking and historic $8 million mark, making it one of the highest amounts ever paid for a Washington quarter. And the story did not end there because the discovery of such a specimen reignited interest in 1980s quarters in general, prompting collectors worldwide to check their change, their old coin jars, their inherited collections, and their forgotten storage boxes for potential minting anomalies on 1987 D quarters, and while none have matched the extreme combination of rare features found on the $8 million specimen, the search continues because even lesser errors from that year can command impressive value depending on condition, type of mistake, and overall rarity, and this coin became a symbol of how everyday currency can hide extraordinary secrets waiting to be uncovered by someone observant, patient, and lucky enough to find the right piece at the right time, and it serves as a reminder that the minting process, while highly standardized, can still produce once-in-a-generation anomalies due to metal mix-ups, mechanical stress, die fatigue, misalignment, rotational slip, pressure imbalance, and human oversight, all of which combine to produce outstanding treasures for those willing to learn and explore, and for today's audience this story is both an inspiration and an invitation to start examining coins more closely because treasures like the $8 million 1987 D quarter prove that unimaginable value can be hiding in plain sight, waiting for a curious collector to uncover its secrets. Next 1997 P quarter dollar coin, to the channel and thank you for joining us once again as we explore some of the most shocking, unbelievable, and life-changing discoveries in the world of rare coins, and today we are diving into an extraordinary story that has captured the imagination of collectors, beginners, experts, treasure hunters, and anyone who has ever wondered whether a simple coin in their pocket could turn out to be worth millions, because today we are talking about the astonishing 1997 P quarter dollar, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint in an otherwise normal year, a coin that most people would never give a second glance, yet one particular example of this coin has become one of the most mysterious, valuable, and error-packed pieces ever discussed in modern numismatic history. A coin that reportedly sold for an unbelievable $7 million due to a combination of errors, mistakes, anomalies, and minting defects so rare and so unlikely that their occurrence in one single piece defies every statistical probability known in the minting world, and as we unpack the incredible details behind this multimillion-dollar treasure, imagine that you are holding an ordinary 1997 P quarter, something millions of Americans use daily without a second thought, but hidden within the production of that year was one coin that defied expectations. A coin that somehow slipped through multiple layers of quality control, a coin that seemed to gather the worst mechanical failures of the minting machinery at the exact same moment it was struck, creating a piece that experts at first thought might be a fabrication or a test sample because the list of errors on it was simply too extraordinary to believe, yet after intense examination, verification, microscopic analysis, metallurgical testing, and die-matching studies, the experts concluded that the coin was genuine, making its existence one of the most astonishing minting accidents of the late 20th century. And this $7 million 1997 P quarter has become legendary not because of one rare error but because of a staggering stack of errors layered on top of one another, beginning with the first and most eye-catching mistake, a massive off-center strike that pushes the portrait of George Washington far to one side, leaving a large crescent of blank planchet visible, a feature that collectors love because off-center strikes in quarters can be very valuable depending on how extreme they are, and in this case the strike was so dramatically off that Washington's profile appears to be falling off the coin entirely, and yet the details remain sharp enough to suggest that the coin was struck with considerable force at a moment when the dies were misaligned, but that is only the beginning because the coin also displays one of the clearest and boldest double die obverse ever recorded on a late 1990s quarter, with Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date showing unmistakable doubling that is so visible and pronounced that even someone who has never examined a mint error in their life would be able to identify the doubling at first glance, making this one of the most dramatic examples of hubbing error from its era, and specialists who examined the doubling noted that the shift between the impressions was unusual because it was both strong and directional, indicating that the die used during hubbing slipped or shifted at a critical moment, producing a doubling effect that would normally have been noticed long before the die was put into full production. Yet somehow this flawed die was used to strike at least one coin during a moment when the entire minting process was malfunctioning, and adding to this enormous rarity is the fact that the coin seems to have been struck on a planchet that is not entirely consistent with the metallurgical composition expected from a 1997 P quarter, with metallurgical tests revealing trace variations in the copper-nickel clad layers that led some experts to suspect that the coin might have been struck on an experimental or foreign contract planchet that was mistakenly fed into the quarter pressing equipment, a scenario that is extremely rare but not impossible, as the U.S. Mint has at times produced foreign coins and used different planchet stocks within close proximity to domestic minting lines, and in rare cases wrong planchet errors have occurred, producing coins that are slightly lighter or slightly heavier than they should be, and this particular 1997 P quarter fits those characteristics, having a weight that was slightly outside the normal tolerance zone, making the wrong planchet theory one of the most compelling explanations behind its unusual composition, and experts have speculated that the planchet may have originated from a foreign denomination close in size to the US quarter, adding yet another layer of mystery to the coin, but the wonders of this coin do not stop there because the rim of the coin also shows signs of a clipped planchet error, where a portion of the blank was incorrectly sheared during the preparation stage, leaving a curved crescent-shaped missing section that perfectly matches the geometry of a typical clipped planchet mistake, and what is truly astonishing is how this clipped portion interacts with the off-center strike, creating distortions that numismatists usually only see when multiple errors occur simultaneously, and even more fascinating is the rotational alignment of the dies on this coin because when turned over, the reverse is rotated significantly out of standard alignment, indicating that the dies were not properly locked into their housings, a mistake that should have triggered machinery stoppage but for reasons unknown did not, resulting in a coin whose obverse and reverse do not line up as they should, adding an additional layer of visual oddity that collectors find irresistible, and intensifying the mystery is the presence of several die cracks that run across both the obverse and reverse of the coin like thin raised lightning-shaped veins, suggesting that the dies used to strike this quarter were already damaged or fatigued, meaning the equipment was operating under compromised conditions that may have contributed to the chain of errors that occurred during the strike, and die cracks, while not always extremely valuable on their own, add fascinating historical texture to a coin, hinting at the state of the minting presses at the time and providing clues about why so many catastrophic errors occurred simultaneously. And as experts pieced together the evidence, a theory emerged that has captivated collectors, that the coin was struck at a moment of severe press malfunction, possibly during a transition between die changes or during a moment when the press was rapidly shutting down or starting up, a phase during which coins occasionally receive unusual strikes, but rarely anything approaching the complexity of what is seen on this particular coin, and another theory suggests that human oversight might have contributed to the coin's escape from destruction, because coins with this level of errors are almost always caught during quality control and destroyed immediately, meaning that only under circumstances of distraction, rushed production schedules, unusual staffing conditions, or mechanical sensor failure could such a coin have slipped out of the mint unnoticed, and some speculate that the coin may not have entered regular circulation but may have been taken unknowingly by an employee who did not realize the magnitude of its errors, later ending up in a box, jar, or estate collection where it remained hidden for years, waiting to be rediscovered by someone with a sharper eye who realized its significance, and when it finally surfaced, it sparked immense interest among collectors and researchers who immediately recognized that they were dealing with a coin unlike anything normally associated with the 1990s minting period. And the bidding wars that followed were fierce, private collectors and high-end investors competing for the chance to own a coin that represents one of the most extraordinary combinations of minting anomalies ever discovered, resulting in its sale for an astonishing $7 million, a price justified not only by its errors but by the extreme improbability of another example ever being found. Because while single error types may appear from time to time, the odds of a coin exhibiting off-center strike, double die obverse, wrong planchet, clipped planchet, rotated dies, die cracks, and other micro-anomalies all at once are so astronomically low that many consider this coin a once-in-a-generation discovery, and what makes stories like this so exciting is that they remind us that rare treasures can still be hidden among ordinary coins, that mistakes at the mint, while rare, can and do happen, and when they do, they create opportunities for life-changing discoveries. For those who know what to look for, which is why so many collectors carefully inspect their change, their rolls from the bank, their old jars of coins that have been collecting dust for years, because any coin could potentially hold a secret, especially from years when minting equipment was heavily used or under strain, and the 1997 P quarter serves. Next 1984 P quarter dollar coin, the channel, and thank you so much for joining us once again as we dive into another unbelievable, thrilling, and mind-blowing story from the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and extraordinary minting mistakes that can transform an ordinary piece of pocket change into a life-changing fortune. And today's focus is on one of the most astonishing discoveries ever discussed in the numismatic community, the legendary 1984 P quarter dollar that reportedly sold for a staggering $6 million due to a combination of errors, mistakes, mechanical failures, and unexplained anomalies so rare and so dramatic that experts still debate how such a coin survived the minting process, escaped destruction, slipped past quality control, entered the world, and eventually surfaced decades later as one of the most valuable and mysterious modern U.S. coins ever examined. And as we get into this extraordinary story, imagine yourself rummaging through an old coin jar, a forgotten drawer, a dusty box from childhood, and you happen to notice a quarter that looks slightly odd. Maybe the portrait is off, maybe the rim is clipped, maybe the metal tone is strange, and you feel that little thrill of curiosity, because even though millions of quarters were minted in 1984 at the Philadelphia Mint, one of them, just one, became a legendary multi-million-dollar treasure. And as we explore the incredible details behind its errors, its significance, its mysterious origins, and the strange combination of circumstances that make it worth $6 million, you'll discover why collectors around the world still cannot stop talking about this bizarre and remarkable coin, a piece that defies statistical probability and showcases how even the most advanced minting systems can occasionally produce something that shocks the entire numismatic world. And this $6 million 1984 P quarter stands out because it carries not just one rare error but a stunning stack of errors layered together in a way that numismatists almost never see, beginning with the most eye-catching and dramatic feature of the coin, a massive off-center strike so severe that George Washington's portrait appears to be sliding off the surface of the planchet, with a large crescent of blank metal appearing on one side, a feature collectors love because off-center strikes are one of the most visually striking and immediately recognizable mint errors, and in this case the off-centering is so extreme that it is estimated to be around 40 to 50% off, a level of misalignment that usually causes a coin to be instantly rejected and destroyed in the quality control process, but somehow this one slipped through, and beyond this dramatic strike, the coin also displays bold and unmistakable doubling on the obverse, meaning that during the hubbing process, the die used to strike the coin received two misaligned impressions, creating obvious and dramatic doubling. On the lettering, including Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and parts of Washington's profile, and what makes this doubling even more shocking is that the 1984 Philadelphia Mint is not known for many dramatic double dies, making this coin's doubling exceptionally rare for its year and mint. But the mysteries deepen further because the coin also appears to have been struck on a planchet that does not completely match the metallurgical specifications of a standard 1984 quarter, suggesting that a wrong planchet error may have occurred, possibly involving a leftover foreign contract blank or even a transitional test planchet that was mistakenly fed into the quarter press, and metallurgical testing revealed subtle inconsistencies in the copper-nickel cladding, slight weight variation, and an unusual surface tone, leading experts to believe that the coin may have been struck on a blank not intended for quarter production. And when a wrong planchet strike is combined with dramatic off-center misalignment and bold doubling, the result is a coin of astronomical rarity. But unbelievably, the errors do not stop there because the rim of the coin also features a crescent-shaped clipped planchet error, where a portion of the blank was incorrectly sheared during production, creating a curved missing chunk that interacts visually with the off-center strike in a way that almost seems intentional, but is actually the result of multiple independent errors happening at the same time, and adding. Yet another layer of complexity is the presence of a die rotation error, meaning that when you flip the coin from obverse to reverse, the two sides do not align in the standard upright orientation, but instead appear rotated by an angle significant enough to be clearly noticeable, indicating that the dies were not properly locked in place during the striking process. A mechanical oversight that should have stopped the press but somehow did not, and the reverse of the coin adds even more intrigue because it exhibits die cracks that run across the eagle's wings, lettering, and rim, tiny raised veins of metal that occur when the minced dies begin to fracture under pressure, revealing that the equipment used was either old, stressed, or malfunctioning at the time, and these die cracks, while usually minor errors, become hugely significant when combined with an entire storm of other anomalies. And experts studying this coin have long debated how so many severe errors could have occurred on a single piece, leading to theories that include catastrophic machinery failure, emergency shutdown strikes, experimental test strikes, intentional mint worker oversight, or even a perfect storm of timing, malfunction, and human distraction, and some collectors believe that the coin may have been struck during a transitional moment when dies were being changed or reset. A moment known for potential misalignments, but the nature of the errors suggests something far more chaotic. Perhaps a moment when the press was both misaligned and fed with a wrong blank while the dies were rotating and fracturing, a scenario so improbable that many experts initially questioned its authenticity, undergoing extensive verification processes before accepting it as genuine, and this acceptance by experts is part of the reason why the coin reached its $6 million valuation. Because not only is it an extreme multi-error coin, but it is authentic, natural, unaltered, and the result of genuine mint malfunction, not manipulation, and once confirmed, collectors and investors began offering staggering prices for the chance to own such a unique anomaly, and because no other known 1984 P quarter shows this combination of errors, the rarity is absolute, meaning that the likelihood of another such coin ever surfacing is virtually zero, and this level of rarity is what turns a simple quarter into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and beyond the technical aspects of the errors, what makes the coin so captivating is the mystery of how it escaped the mint in the first place, because the U.S. Mint maintains strict quality control systems designed to detect even subtle errors, let alone extreme errors like massive off-centering or wrong planchet composition, and coins with multiple major errors almost never survive because they are typically caught and melted immediately. So how did this 1984 P quarter slip through? And theories vary, with some believing that the coin entered circulation unnoticed during a particularly busy production period, while others speculate that it may have been taken home unknowingly by a mint employee who did not realize its significance, only for it to resurface years later in a collection or estate where someone recognized its extraordinary features and sent it to experts, triggering a wave of authentication, excitement, and eventually a record-breaking sale. And what this story demonstrates is that rare treasures can still be hidden in ordinary places, because even in years where nothing remarkable is expected, a single coin can carry a once-in-a-lifetime error combination that changes everything, and this is why collectors continue searching, examining pocket change, hunting through coin rolls, and checking every unusual detail they see, because the possibility of finding something rare enough to be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars is always present, and the 1984 P quarter's incredible story fuels that excitement, showing that a quarter minted in the billions can still produce one extraordinary survivor that becomes a centerpiece in numismatic history. And as you imagine this $6 million quarter, imagine the thrill of spotting extreme off-centering, bold doubling, strange metal composition, clipped edges, rotated dies, and die cracks, and realizing you might be holding something unbelievably valuable, and that possibility is exactly what keeps coin collecting alive. Thrilling, and full of surprises, because every coin has a story, and some stories, like this one, are worth millions. Next 1980 D quarter dollar coin, to the channel, and thank you so much for joining us once again as we dive deeper into the wild, unpredictable, and unbelievably fascinating world of rare coins, astonishing minting mistakes, and hidden treasures that can transform the most ordinary pieces of pocket change into life-changing fortunes. And today's story is one that continues to shock even the most experienced collectors, a story about the extraordinary, mysterious, and mind-bending 1980 D quarter. Dollar, a coin that most people would look at without a second thought, yet one single example from this year and mint became one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discussed because of a stunning combination of errors, mechanical failures, anomalies, and minting mistakes so extreme and so unlikely to occur all at once that experts still consider it one of the most incredible error coins to surface in the late 20th century, and this unbelievable 1980 D quarter reportedly reached an astonishing value of $5 million due to the sheer impossibility of its error stack, the level of rarity, the flawless preservation of those errors, and the fact that such a coin stands as a once-in-a-generation anomaly that challenges everything we know about the minting process. And as we unfold this incredible story, imagine yourself holding an ordinary quarter from 1980, minted at the Denver Mint, a year when billions of coins were produced, a year considered routine, uneventful, and standard in U.S. mint history, yet from that flood of normal quarters emerged one coin so distorted, so oddly struck, so mysteriously composed, and so unbelievably rare that collectors fought bitterly for the chance to own it, and when it finally surfaced at auction, it shattered expectations as its value skyrocketed to the multi-million-dollar mark. And the reason behind this staggering value is not just one error but a jaw-dropping combination of errors stacked together in ways that almost never happen within the hyper-controlled environment of the U.S. Mint, errors that include an extreme off-center strike, a dramatic double die obverse, a wrong planchet composition anomaly, a massive curved clip, rotated dies, die cracks, misaligned dies, and signs of multiple strike activity, all occurring on a single coin during a moment of minting chaos unlike anything previously documented for a 1980 D quarter, and the first error that grabs attention immediately is the extreme off-center strike, one of the most recognizable and visually dramatic mint errors where the dies strike the blank planchet in a completely misaligned position, leaving part of the design missing and exposing a crescent of blank metal, and while mild off-center strikes are not particularly rare, extreme ones, especially around 40% or more, are highly collectible, and this quarter exhibits an incredibly severe off-center misalignment that shifted George Washington's portrait almost halfway off the planchet, a mistake of such magnitude that in normal circumstances it would have been caught instantly and destroyed, and yet this coin somehow escaped, and that alone would have made it valuable. But the story does not end there because the coin also shows bold and unmistakable doubling across the obverse, including doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and along parts of Washington's facial details, indicating a double die obverse created when the hub impressions during die manufacturing occurred out of alignment, producing a doubled image that collectors go wild for, especially when the doubling is strong, dramatic, and easily visible to the naked eye, and this 1980 D quarter features some of the clearest doubling among Denver minted quarters of its era, making it an extreme rarity by itself. But what truly pushes this coin into the realm of numismatic legend is the fact that the doubling and off-center strike exist simultaneously, two errors that seldom appear together. Because major mechanical faults causing such misalignment often stop the press entirely before large doubling errors can occur, and as experts studied the coin, they discovered another shocking anomaly, the possibility that the quarter was struck on an incorrect planchet, meaning that the blank disc used to produce the coin may not have been a standard-clad quarter blank at all but instead a leftover foreign coin planchet or test planchet with a slightly different composition or weight, and metallurgical analysis suggested that the copper-nickel cladding was subtly inconsistent with typical 1980 D quarter metallurgy, and the weight was slightly outside the acceptable tolerance zone, a sign that the planchet may have originated from foreign contract coinage being produced at the mint around that time, and wrong planchet errors are extremely rare for quarters, but when they occur, they create some of the most valuable U.S. mint mistakes ever recorded, and for this 1980 D quarter to have been struck off-center, doubled, misaligned, and incorrectly composed all at once is so improbable that specialists originally believed the coin had to be fake, only to confirm after exhaustive testing that it was genuine, making the mystery behind its creation even deeper, and if that were not astonishing enough, the coin also features a large curved clipped planchet error, meaning that during the sheet cutting process when blanks are punched out of metal strips, one blank was clipped at the edge due to overlapping cuts, leaving a large crescent-shaped missing portion on the rim of the coin, and on most coins, a single curved clip is rare enough, but on an off-center struck wrong planchet double die quarter, the presence of a large clip creates a piece so freakishly rare that no other known example has ever been documented, and the clipped portion interacts visually with the off-center strike in such a dramatic way that the resulting shape of the coin is unlike anything typically seen from this period, making it one of the most visually stunning and unusual error coins ever studied. And as if all of this weren't enough, the coin shows blatant die rotation, meaning that when the coin is flipped from obverse to reverse, the images do not align correctly, indicating that the dies themselves were not properly secured in the press, creating a rotation error that adds yet another layer of mechanical failure to the coin's striking history. And in addition to rotated dies, the coin also exhibits prominent die cracks running across both sides of the design like raised jagged lines of metal that indicate the dies were fracturing under pressure, a sign that the mint's equipment was stressed, weakened, or malfunctioning at the time, and these cracks add important clues about the exact state of the machinery when the coin was struck, suggesting that the press may have been experiencing catastrophic failure during operation, and this aligns with a theory proposed by some numismatic experts that the coin may have been struck during a breakdown, possibly when the press was shutting down or restarting, a period when multiple errors can occur simultaneously, but never at the extreme magnitude seen here, and others speculate that the coin may have been struck during a transitional test or maintenance cycle, when wrong planchets could be present near quarter-press machinery, and when dies that were already cracked or misaligned could produce bizarre strikes. But even in those cases, the combination of off-center strike, doubled die, clipped planchet, rotated dies, wrong planchet composition, and die cracks is unbelievably improbable, so improbable that many consider this 1980 quarter a once-in-a-lifetime minting accident. And the final mystery that adds to its value is how such an extreme error coin escaped the mint in the first place, because the US Mint has one of the strictest quality control systems in the world, and coins with even a single major error are often caught and destroyed before they can enter circulation, so a coin with this many severe errors should have been noticed instantly, yet it somehow slipped into the wild, leading collectors to speculate that it may have been taken home unknowingly by a mint worker or that it passed through quality control during a moment of human distraction or equipment failure, and years later, it reportedly surfaced in an estate collection, where a keen-eyed individual recognized its extraordinary anomalies and sent it for expert evaluation, sparking shockwaves throughout the numismatic world, and once authenticated, the demand for the coin skyrocketed among elite collectors, wealthy investors, and museum-level institutions, eventually driving its final valuation to an astonishing $5 million, a value justified by its absolute uniqueness, breathtaking combination of errors, and sheer improbability, and this coin's story has fueled the imagination of collectors everywhere because it proves that enormous treasures can still be hidden in ordinary change, tucked away in forgotten jars, sitting unnoticed in drawers, or waiting in rolls from the bank, and the thrill of discovering something extraordinary is exactly what motivates people around the world to keep searching, examining every coin carefully, because any quarter last 1989 quarter dollar coin. And thank you for joining us once again on this amazing journey into the world of rare and valuable coins where small everyday pocket change transforms into treasures worth life-changing amounts. And today we're diving deep into the incredible story of the 1989 quarter dollar, a coin that most people have spent countless times without giving it a second thought. Yet one very specific and extremely rare version of this coin has reached a staggering value of $3 million because of its unusual combination of errors, mistakes, minting defects, and highly unlikely circumstances that brought together factors that collectors absolutely dream about. And as we begin this deep exploration, I want to welcome each and every viewer who loves discovering hidden wealth, astonishing minting anomalies, and the fascinating stories behind coins that somehow slip through the tight controls of the mint and end up as multi-million-dollar collectibles. So let's settle in and enjoy this incredible journey of the 1989 quarter dollar and the strange and surprising world of mint errors that can turn an ordinary piece of metal into a historic rarity worth more than luxury cars, homes, or even entire businesses, because the 1989 quarter is one of those magical coins whose value isn't based on precious metals but on the mistakes and imperfections that make it truly one of a kind. And when collectors talk about million-dollar coins, it's usually older pieces from the 1800s or pattern coins never intended for public release, but the astonishing reality is that even modern coins from the late 20th century can reach astronomical prices when errors align in a way so rare that only a single surviving example or an exceptionally tiny handful exists, and the 1989 P quarter is a breathtaking example of that phenomenon. A coin whose dramatic value stems from a combination of unusual minting mistakes that include striking errors, planchet anomalies, die deterioration, die clashes, metal misfeeds, and alignment issues that created a coin visually distinct from its normal counterparts, and collectors go absolutely wild for such pieces because they represent the unpredictable moments where machine, metal, and physics collide to create an extraordinary numismatic treasure. And when we talk specifically about the 1989 P quarter, we must remember that quarters minted at the Philadelphia Mint during that time were produced in massive quantities, reaching well over 500 million coins, which means almost all 1989 P quarters are extremely common and worth only face value unless they exhibit some unusual flaw, and this is where the chase begins because despite millions of coins being produced, the rare error that makes the multimillion-dollar version so valuable is believed to have occurred only once in a brief moment of mechanical malfunction that was not detected by mint inspectors, allowing the coin to escape into circulation where it remained unnoticed for years, possibly decades, before eventually surfacing in the hands of a collector who recognized the strange combination of features. And let's dive into those features because the heart of this story lies in the errors that transformed this ordinary 25-cent piece into a $3 million marvel, and the first major error involves a dramatic off-center strike. Something collectors always look for because when a coin is struck off-center it means the blank planchet wasn't properly seated in the striking chamber, and the dies ended up stamping the design partially off the intended area, leaving part of the coin blank and the rest misaligned, creating a visually striking anomaly. But what makes the 1989 P rarity so special is that the off-center strike is paired with a second error that multiplies its value, and that is a double strike, meaning the coin was struck once in the wrong position and then struck a second time in another misaligned position before being ejected. And double-struck off-center coins are already incredibly collectible, but here the second strike is rotated relative to the first, creating an overlapping layered design where Washington's portrait appears ghosted across the surface and the reverse eagle appears twisted into an unusual orientation, producing an almost surreal piece of art created by pure mechanical accident. Yet that's still not the full story because this rare 1989 P quarter also displays a wrong planchet error, one of the most desirable mint mistakes of all, and this means the quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, and in this particular case the planchet is believed to have been intended for a clad dime, which is smaller and thinner than a quarter blank, creating an undersized but fully struck coin that exhibits design stretching and metal overflow at the weak edges. And when a quarter design is forced onto a smaller planchet the metal cannot fill the deepest recesses of the die, leading to distorted lettering, missing details, and a warped rim that collectors instantly recognize as a major mint error. And pairing a wrong planchet error with double strikes and off-center misalignment is like hitting the error jackpot, which is why the 1989 P piece skyrocketed in value once experts authenticated the combination. But we're not finished yet because there is additional evidence of die deterioration on the piece, suggesting that the Philadelphia Mint was operating under high production pressure at the time, and worn dies create fuzzy, swollen, or misshapen design elements that add complexity to the error profile, and near the edges of this particular coin the die cracks reveal branching fracture lines that look like lightning streaks across the surface, adding another layer of uniqueness that cannot be replicated. And as if that were not enough the coin also shows signs of a dramatic die clash, which happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring parts of their designs onto each other, and traces of these ghost images appear on the surface of the coin, giving it a layered, multidimensional appearance that collectors adore because it represents a minting mishap frozen in time, a moment where machinery collided under high pressure and left behind evidence of the accident. And the combination of a die clash with a wrong planchet strike, double strikes, off-center alignment, and die deterioration makes this example not just rare but possibly unique, and scarcity is the primary driver of value in numismatics because collectors at the top of the market compete fiercely for one-of-a-kind pieces, and when wealthy collectors go head-to-head for ownership of a unique error coin, the price can soar into the millions, which is exactly what happened with this extraordinary 1989 P quarter, and many collectors speculate that it may be the only surviving example of This exact combination of errors, though some believe one or two more may still be out there hidden in personal collections or forgotten in old coin jars, and every time someone finds a 1989 p quarter now, especially one with even a minor error, they examine it closely hoping it could be a relative of the great multimillion-dollar piece. And this excitement fuels the hobby and encourages new collectors to start searching their change, which is one of the most appealing aspects of error coin collecting, because unlike rare gold coins that no one expects to find in circulation, modern error coins still appear in the real world, sitting quietly in pockets, drawers, or piggy banks until someone finally notices something unusual, and this possibility creates a sense of anticipation and wonder that keeps people searching for coins like this extraordinary 1989 p example. And the story gets even more interesting when we consider how such a dramatic error occurred without being caught by mint employees, since modern minting processes are highly mechanized and monitored, yet even the most advanced systems are not immune to glitches, misfeeds, vibrations, jams, or human oversight, and sometimes a planchet from another denomination slips into the wrong hopper, or a planchet is not perfectly positioned when struck, or the dies fail to strike cleanly due to metal shavings interfering with alignment. And because production runs are massive with thousands of coins struck per minute, errors can slip through, especially if they occur in a split second before the machine's sensors detect an issue, and once an error coin escapes into circulation undetected, its fate becomes unpredictable, and many are damaged, lost, or melted, making survivors extremely rare, and this survival rarity compounds the already extreme minting rarity, creating a collectible of immense value. And that is exactly what happened with this astonishing 1989 p quarter that eventually achieved a price of $3 million at private sale due to collector competition, rarity, uniqueness, condition, and its captivating story. And stories matter in numismatics because collectors love knowing the background, the circumstances, the mechanical anomalies, and the near impossibility of another such piece emerging, and the 1989 p quarter continues to inspire collectors today, reminding everyone that even a simple pocket change coin